Welcome back to day 18 of Artgust. Today's prompt is under the surface, and I'm using this prompt as an excuse to make something I've been wanting to make, but have been kind of putting off. It's called a picky pad, and it's a small rubbery mat filled with tiny objects, usually beads. The purpose of this mat is to pick at it to get the objects out. I think they're mostly built for folks who pick at their own skin and hair and things like that, to give them a safer outlet for those sorts of tendencies, which I don't really do much, but they just look so satisfying to fidget with. I've debated just ordering one in the past, but I couldn't really justify the cost to myself. I've also been thinking of making one, but I've been putting it off because using silicone seemed like such a waste for a one-time use thing like this. I've looked a little into getting a remeltable base instead of silicone, but was debating if it's worth it to order for a project I may or may not actually enjoy. The first step of making this thing is choosing the small items to go inside the picky pad. One of the most common items I've seen is beads, and luckily I've got a bunch of those. I want a bunch of different sizes and materials because I want to try things and see what works and what I like the best later on. Like, will metal charms and rocks be too heavy? Will some of the shapes of beads be too hard to remove? It's experiment time. The other main reason I want a bunch of different kinds of beads and materials is just visual interest. I want the final piece to be nice to look at and have a theme, because I think that's fun. I'm going ocean themed for this one, hence all the blue and the nautical themed charms. Along with the beads, I decided to try a couple of other items. One of them is shells, which I'm hoping will be strong enough not to break when I pull them out later, and another of which is small pieces of tinsel. I've seen a few of these pads that just have little strands of, I think, tinsel in them, but not a lot that have both tinsel and beads, so we'll see if they play nicely together. I also grabbed a few undrilled beads from my shaker charm supplies. These are ones without holes in the center. I imagine they'll be much easier to take out because there won't be silicone holding them in through the center, but we'll see. Before putting the beads into the mold, I spread some Vaseline around on the inside to keep the silicone we're going to be pouring from sticking to the silicone mold itself. Hopefully the Vaseline doesn't make the whole thing greasy. I did wipe off some excess to hopefully mitigate that. Now we can just put our beads into the mold. I just dumped them all in, but then made sure to carefully place the charms and the bigger pieces that I wanted to be more visible. Once everything is fairly even, I filled in all the gaps between the beads with even smaller beads. I want to fill this thing up as much as possible. I know I said it seems wasteful to use silicone, but I already have some, and this will give me a chance to see if it's something I want to make more of, in which case I can order the remeltable stuff later. I've had this clear silicone for a while, but I haven't actually used clear silicone before. I'm really hoping I mixed it enough since I didn't have two different colors to go by. This silicone also seemed thicker than the blue stuff I usually use, and supposedly has a faster cure time, so hopefully it seeps down between all the beads to hold them in there. I probably could have added more beads on top. I'm not sure how much I want things to stick out, but I know I don't want a thick slab of just silicone on one side. I want to have as many beads in the silicone as possible, so we have more things to pick at later. Alright, we'll let things cure. Yeah, and 5 hours later or so, it's done. It looks like the silicone sank down between the beads and left the perfect amount on top to hold the beads there in place without having a huge layer of just silicone. And I was right, this is very satisfying. It also sounds great. I'm not usually as worried about the sound of things compared to the feel, but listen to the pops and cracks in there. Plus, the beads and things are fun to take out. The problem is that now I want to sit here for the next 2 hours and take all of the beads out in one go instead of working on making more videos for you guys. Perhaps it's a good thing that the tips of my fingers are starting to get a bit sore from prying everything out with my nails. Maybe that will get me to go do something else. Here's my final thoughts on things. My favorite pieces to take out are probably the undrilled spherical beads, because they require a little bit of digging to get to, but I don't have to yank on them to get them out. Although some of the ones near the surface popped out without me trying, which is kind of a downside. I had a similar thing happening with the super tiny seed beads just falling out without me working on getting them out, which I didn't really like. I liked the metal charms because they were a little bit of a challenge, but I wasn't worried about breaking them, unlike the plastic charms with loops at the top that I was worried I'd snap off. The pony beads and the medium-sized faceted beads were a good amount of struggle in a satisfying way. Conversely, I'm not a huge fan of the tinsel because it breaks sometimes when pulling on it, which is decidedly not satisfying, but getting it in one piece is nice. The shorter pieces seem to work better for getting them out without breaking. I will say that the tinsel also got rather staticky when pulling it out, which made it stick to random things. Speaking of sticking to things, the silicone got covered in cat hair immediately. That's just kind of the nature of silicone, but I figured it was worth mentioning. I do also still feel like this project is a bit of a waste of silicone, so if you have any ideas for what I can use the leftover silicone husk for after I get all the beads out, do let me know. Perhaps I'll have to get some of that remeltable base so I can make more reusable ones of these in the future. If you'd be interested in seeing a video of that, or in me adding some things like this to my shop, let me know. Okay, seriously though, I can't stop messing with this. I need to go edit things. Thanks for hanging out for today's video. Hopefully you had a good time. Just a reminder that this video is part of a challenge I'm doing of posting a video a day in the month of August, and you can follow along with the art prompts I'm working from. Just tag things you make on social media with hashtag Artgust. I'm excited to see what you make too. Happy crafting. I'll see you tomorrow. Bye!